It Happens on the Back Steps by Weeonny. I've spent the past few weeks living in a hotel in Calgary, Alberta. My dad is in the hospital and I flew out here from PEI to spend some time with him. I moved away a couple of years ago and I haven't been back since. I have a pretty big family of 7+ kids and we've all followed the same order. We turn 18, move away from home, and never look back. There were no ties to my family or hometown whatsoever, and we didn't keep in touch. It was just our dad who raised us, and he was loopy. He never did anything to hurt us, but it was always up to the eldest of the family to raise the kids. I was the youngest of the bunch by about 6 years. So when I was 12, I was on my own. The last member of the family I saw was Marcus, and I was pretty surprised when he left. We were close, but he never even said goodbye. It's been a long time since I've seen anyone, but just these past 2 weeks I've had run-ins with a handful of them. They're all pretty much strangers to me, and it's been pretty weird to tell you the truth. We didn't talk much and everyone just wanted their alone time with Dad. From time to time, someone would ask me if I'd been to the old farmhouse, but I hadn't. We'd reminisce a bit, but the memories were fairly inconsistent, and everyone seemed to have a different interpretation on what our childhood was like. It would just be little things like the color of the house, the names of people we knew. I didn't think anything of it. Faulty memory must just have been in our genetics. And since I was so much younger than everyone, maybe we just had no overlapping memories. It wasn't until I met Stephanie that I suspected something bigger was at hand. I've never seen Stephanie before in my life. Not even in a picture. But she knew me, and she knew our dad. According to her, she was my older sister by about 10 years, and she even had some stories of when I was little. Now, we grew up out in northern Alberta. It was a pretty big house with a wraparound porch and a pretty decent chunk of land. There was nothing interesting about the property aside from the apparent gold mine of oil that it was sitting on. We had a single abandoned oil derrick that had been built way before my time. I guess whoever owned it paid my dad enough for him to never need a job. Dad never left the house, and I mean never. He had countless offers to sell the property, but he turned all of them down. He spent the greater half of his life pumping out kids, sitting on oil, and it left him content enough to lay around and do nothing all day. Now back to Stephanie. We spent the afternoon talking about life and then a little bit about the farmhouse. I could tell that we both knew that something was off. For instance, when she asked about the family dog, I responded, "Which one? We had 3. But no, according to her, there was only one. The black lab." I said, "Yeah, I remember Carson. He ran away." And I remember the exact day too, because it was the same day that Marcus had left. I had brought him out into the backyard to play catch, our version of catch, which was more like throw a stick and Carson would fetch it and then I would chase him to get the stick back. We had gotten pretty close to the derrick when Marcus came out and yelled at us to come inside for dinner. I ran with Carson back to the steps, but he wouldn't walk up them. I got up about 75% of the way and he just stayed at the bottom and barked. I put him on his leash and tugged him. Even tried to carry him up the steps, but he would freak out and go crazy. So I decided to just leave him be. When I got inside, it was just my dad there. There was no dinner. I had asked him where Marcus was, and he said that he had left and wasn't coming back. This struck me as weird, but I was 12, and all of my siblings had left at this point. I went outside to check on Carson, but Carson was gone too. I told all of this to Stephanie, and she had a strange look of awe on her face. She told me that the black lab that she remembered was named Diego, and that we never had a brother named Marcus. This made things very uncomfortable between us. Here we both were, spawn of the same sick man in the hospital bed, and both were suddenly aware that there were some major inconsistencies in our childhood. The next day, we made a plan to go out and visit the house. It took us about 6 hours to drive out there, and when we did, we were both equally disturbed. Like I mentioned before, the house had a wraparound porch, So there were 4 different sets of steps leading up to the house. All of the steps were blocked by piles of furniture, garbage bags, floorboards, you name it. Someone was trying to make sure that no one would ever enter that house. Far in the backyard, I saw a transport truck and a couple of guys doing maintenance on the derrick. We went to go and check it out, and we were told by the crew that they were just hired to do an inspection. I guess that someone must have purchased the land. We thought it was odd, but we decided we should go and check out the inside of the house. On our way to the back steps, Stephanie realized that she had left her phone in the car, and she went to go and get it. I started picking away at the furniture and squeezed my way through. The house was all dusty and unkempt. I had to get something off of my chest, so I went to the family room right away to check out the portraits. I didn't recognize any of these people, and to top it all off, I wasn't in any of the photos. I noticed that Stephanie was taking a long time, so I tried yelling for her off the porch. The car was still there, but she was nowhere to be found. I called her cell phone, and she quickly answered. When I asked her where she was, she said that she was inside the house. I walked around the porch looking for her, but I wasn't able to find her. When I got back to the house, I noticed that the oil derrick was pumping and that the maintenance guys were gone. At that time, I heard Stephanie say, "Oh, I found you." I then faintly made out her talking to someone else and then hanging up the phone. I waited around the car until dark, and I never heard or saw Stephanie again. I tried calling her, but the line would just keep on ringing. I stayed in a small town closer to home that night and planned on returning to Calgary the next day. I bought a plane ticket with the intent of having one last farewell with my dad before returning to PEI. When I got to the hospital, he was nowhere to be found. The nurses told me that he was here, but he passed away a few weeks ago. I'm writing this from the airport, and I'm trying to get this story straight before I mention it to any of my friends back home. We've been in touch regularly. They know that I've been away, but I haven't disclosed any details. As for work, I'm not employed right now, and don't have any commitments to worry about. I'm feeling pretty unsettled about the whole situation, and I wish I had someone to talk to. Someone familiar. Someone that knew me when I was growing up. But there's no one. This is one of those moments when I regret not keeping in touch and trying to get away from my past. I feel more alone today than I have felt in a long time. And I can't wait to get home.